When will people actually feel the energy transition? Not just in policy documents, not just in investor decks, not just in climate conferences, but in homes, farms, factories, small businesses, villages, cities, and aspirations.
We should not just recycle it, but we should upcycle. We have gone way beyond that, and we have optimized for 7 parameters. We have 250 different carbon library with us.
Storytelling is equally important. So while technology gives you the foot in the door because you're solving a real problem, but the founder and the storytelling is equally important. Prototypes, which are brilliant prototypes, but have not been able to cross over what we call in common parlance, valley of death. And that is where Global Energy Alliance came in with ENTICE to help innovators cross that valley of death.
I'll be biased towards Cancrie. The heading would be a company from Jaipur is giving 100x dividend to their stakeholders.
When we talk about India's clean energy story, we usually talk about big targets. 500 gigawatt non-fossil fuel capacity by 2030, net zero by 2070, battery storage, electric vehicles, clean tech startups, and India 2047. But today, I want to ask a more human question. When will people actually feel the energy transition? Not just in policy documents, not just in investor decks, not just in climate conferences, but in homes, farms, factories, small businesses, villages, cities, and aspirations. And today's episode is special because we are holding both sides of the table together. On one side, we have Mahi Singh, co-founder of Cancrie, who is working on an advanced battery materials made from agriculture and industrial waste. And on the other side, we have Vaishali Mishra, who leads communications for Asia and global special projects at the Global Energy Alliance for People and Planet, and oversees ENTICE, the Energy Transition Innovation Challenge. And here is the interesting connection. Cancrie was one of the ENTICE 1.0 winners. So this is not just a founder and an ecosystem builder conversation. In some ways, this is also a reunion. By 2047, India's 100th year of independence, can India build an energy transition that people can actually feel? Enjoy the show. So Mahi, tell me one thing. So the idea of starting a company with coconut shells or agri-waste and getting them converted into battery materials, how did this idea came up?
So I will not take the credit of this idea. So essentially my co-founder Akshay, he did his PhD from National University of Singapore, and there he worked on upcycling waste. So essentially and this is 2013. So what we'd been
10 years
listening, 10 years back, 13 years back. So what we had been listening was, recycling the waste at that time. So then he got this idea on we should not just recycle it, but we should upcycle, meaning we should improve the value chain of that material, of that feedstock. And that's exactly where the idea came in, wherein he was working on this process where he can transform this agricultural residue into something which is value addition. And then came this idea of creating nanocarbon, where he was transforming this waste into advanced nanocarbon that can go in multiple applications, energy storage being one of them.
Wow. And to you, Vaishali, you keep seeing a lot of startups reaching out, the innovations that are reaching out. But how do you actually separate real innovations from just the storytellers or storytelling that people do?
I don't see both as separate from each other. I think they feed off into each other. Innovation is encouraging, and especially in a sector like clean energy transition, in a hard-to-abate sector. Innovation has been ripe, and this is really encouraging for people like us to see that progression happening with entrepreneurs like Mahi and companies like Cancrie really coming of age. Storytelling is equally important. So while technology gives you the foot in the door because you're solving a real problem, but the founder and the storytelling is equally important because you have to, as a founder, be able to convince your customer, your investors, your ecosystem partners. And that is where storytelling kicks in. So it's not so much about, the marketing of the solution or the product, but it is also about the founder's conviction and translating that conviction to the larger audience. So I feel both of them feed off each other. So it's not one against the other.
True. Even if you're like bringing a new innovations, a better storytelling will definitely complement it.
Totally, because you're always not speaking to a technical person at the other end, right? You have to pitch to investors, you have to reach out to your peers, you have to go and speak to the government, you have to speak to the larger sector. And for them, they need to understand what your passion is all about. And you can do that when you pitch it right, when you have that conviction. And that's where storytelling comes in to play.
True. Wonderful. So now for our audience, tell us about what the Global Energy Alliance for People and Planet is doing.
Right. So Global Energy Alliance for People and Planet, we're actually nearing our 5th year anniversary. We were launched by 3 foundations that came together, IKEA Foundation, the Bezos Earth Fund, and the Rockefeller Foundation at COP. We are a global non-for-profit and we work across countries. We have 9 focus countries, and we work towards unlocking transformative partnerships and bringing about systems change. And we do that through capital, unlocking capital. We do that through technical assistance. And also most of our impact is grounded in the realities of the local government and the local community. So that is how we bring together the ecosystem. So it's not just only about us implementing a project or us putting in the capital, but we also play a very critical role in unlocking the ecosystem and bringing about and crowding in resources and partners to deliver impact on ground.
Wow. And this is a global organization, not just specific, but doing works in multiple countries.
Yes, this is a global organization. And I said we have 9 focus countries, but of course we span across beyond that.
So that was wonderful, Vaishali. And over to you, Mahi. Tell to our audience what Cancrie does today.
So Cancrie makes like a magic powder. So what it does actually is, जो बैटरीज होती हैं EVs में जाती हैं, सोलर में जाती हैं, drones में जाती हैं. What we essentially do is we put our material inside of it and improve the performance of these batteries, because what we see is battery has problems like inefficient life, the dollar per kilowatt hour is very high, and then there's a problem of safety that we all hear about. हम ये सारी problem solve कर रहे हैं with the use of Cancrie. So Cancrie है क्या exactly? It is actually an upcycling of agricultural and industrial residue. तो हम feedstock लेते हैं, जैसे coconut shell हो गया, walnut shell हो गया, industrial trimmings हो गई. We take that, we have a patent granted process जिसके through हम there's certain steps, and what we get is a black colored powder.
Okay.
अब ये magic powder जो है ये बैटरी के अंदर जाता है.
When you say battery के अंदर जाता है, where exactly it does?
So it goes in the cathodes of the battery.
Okay.
Yeah. So बहुत ही simple, with customers को या हमारे battery manufacturers को कुछ change नहीं करना होता. They just have to add this, and then इससे जो है the performance increases, safety बढ़ती है, उसके बाद life बढ़ती है very importantly, and at the same time charging profile improve होती है.
So can I say that if I have a plant, I'm assembling batteries, or when I'm making these cells and all that, so this material will be used during the manufacturing of that cell or during the pack assembling? So
it will be manufactured during the cell. So we call it something like slurry making. Slurry making is essentially अपन cathode का mix जो बनाते हैं.
Okay.
For an LFP we put LFP, we put binder and all, and then Cancrie also goes inside of it. The beauty is, or the powerful thing is, that we are actually replacing the critical material. हम critical material replace करके Cancrie इसमें डालते हैं. So not only it's more sustainable, but at the same time it is giving a very good performance on top of it in terms of energy density, power density, life cycle, and so on.
Okay. So when you say it goes during the manufacturing,
Yep.
so as I know, not a lot of Indian companies are making these batteries, I would say, or these cells.
Yep.
So are you working out with the global players who are manufacturing these batteries?
So what we started off was with lead acid batteries. Okay. So it is a mature market here in India.
Yes.
And our primary focus was to get revenue for the company, because we just did not want to be a technology company or a company which has IP is in pipeline, but a company which is making revenue. So
Right.
that is why lead acid battery was our first entry to the market, and we saw there was gap there. People were looking at it, and people were importing and still importing from overseas. They are buying from China and the US,
Mostly China.
and then that's exactly where we saw our in, and then lead acid battery became our revenue stream. And now we are seeing companies coming up for lithium ion as well. Like we have a customer who's based out of Bangalore, who's making lithium ion cells, and we are supplying this material to them.
Wow. So you've moved from one industry, from lead acid,
Yep.
to now lithium ion, and specifically the Indian makers who are
Yes.
doing this.
Yep.
Very nice. So that's something that we would love to see, if these increase the efficiencies of
Yep.
these batteries and the performance of these batteries for domestically made or domestically
Absolutely.
these.
Yes.
That would be wonderful. And Vaishali, and we've seen your experience, the work that you have done. So World Bank, probably the Commonwealth Secretariat, and various other works that you have done. At what point of time, when you moved to like Global Energy Alliance, you felt that the energy transition is the next big thing?
So I've been very fortunate. Universe is very strategically conspired to have me work in sectors which at that point in time were grappling with real high definition challenges, whether it was my portfolio in looking at applications for the microfinance industry and helping women access finance, or looking at gender and livelihood, where we were looking at livelihood revenue streams for women, especially in rural India, and now with clean energy. The motivation and the intent has always been to work towards solutions that can impact lives at scale. So that has been my underlying philosophy. And now with clean energy transition, the progression made a lot of sense, because energy is such a theme or sector that cuts across, right? Any socioeconomic indicator that you care about, energy hits that. So whether it is water, healthcare, education, gender, livelihood, energy is the underlying current across these sectors. And hence, it made sense to me to kind of move and veer towards this, because one started seeing the impact of energy in the other sectors as well. So as I said, I've been quite fortunate, and now clean energy doesn't seem to be a sector or a job that I'm in, but it seems just as a way of life. So, yeah.
Wow. So good transformation actually, and God actually pushed you towards getting this, and we got somebody in Global Energy Alliance for this. And because she talked about motivation, so Mahi, we understand that you come from, you studied in Singapore,
Yep.
both you and Akshay, I believe.
Yep.
What was your motivation, both of you actually coming back to India and starting this? And
So-
because you mentioned that in 2013
Yeah.
is when Akshay had
Yes.
made this thing, and what was the first motivation, and what took you so long to made it in a commercial sort of a product? I think you started in 2020, if I'm correct.
Yes, that's
So
correct.
7 years gap once you have found what needs to be done.
So when we talk about Akshay's journey from 2013, so he was doing his PhD and took around 5 years, 4 to 5 years, to complete that.
Okay.
And that's when it took some maturity in terms of the technology. And then he started working in Singapore for a national lab there. And what he was essentially working on was translational work. By translational work, I mean Singapore at that point in time has already started working on not just research, but something that can be commercialized. That had become a motive for Singapore already.
Wow.
So, and that is where he would help the companies in Singapore to translate the research work into actual field.
So Akshay was actually helping them to.
Yeah, so he was proposing different solutions to these companies that can be commercialized.
Wow.
And that's when he realized that he already has a technology that has the potential to commercialize. So when he saw the success that he had been recommending to people, that's when he said that let me do it on my own as well. Parallelly, my life was, I was from a very different background. I was working in startups since 2013 already in Singapore. So I was with Rocket Internet. I was in a fintech company working in strategy and business. So very cliched. One day I was just sitting in a nice We had a very nice view of the office. I was just looking out and I was like, what am I doing? And that was really
This is when?
the thing. This was 2017 is when this happened. So after that, I just changed the job. That is what I did. But I think 6 months into it, I realized, no, this is not something I want to continue. And Singapore is comfortable. Singapore is a very good place to be. It taught us integrity and hard work. So even when you have a comfortable life, I've seen people doing really hard work and very true to their work. So I really like the fact that I worked there for a couple of years. But at the same time, I think it was time for me to move on to next challenge.
Oh,
And that's when I
just
came
after
back
6
to
months,
India.
you said.
Yeah, 6 months I quit the job. I came back to India in September 2019. And that's when I started another company called Dyers, where we were helping female fine art artists get economic independence.
Okay.
At the same time, I was also part of this thing called Gigaton Challenge, where we were helping teams across the world in reducing CO2 emissions in real time. And that's when Akshay had also, started working on Cancrie. So that's when we decided, let's start Cancrie. And by the time it became 2020, and then before that, we'd already started preparing for the company and all. And that's how we started rolling here.
So is Cancrie a better product than your competitors? Because if you have found a solution, possibly somebody else is also looking for it. What is that unique selling point that you have today? Have you made it a lesser expensive thing? That's why people are taking it now? Or something else, yeah. Please.
So Cancrie sits at the cusp of three things. Number one is the fact that it definitely performs better than the incumbent solutions. Having said that, it doesn't
When you
mean
say
it's-
better, how much better? Is there a number to it?
Yeah. So when we say better, one thing is at a molecular level of this material itself is we have optimized for 7 parameters.
Okay.
When we typically talk about these battery materials, they are generally work on 2 parameters, 2 or 3 parameters, conductivity, surface area and all. But we have gone way beyond that and we have optimized for 7 parameters. And that is number one. So we have optimized it in such a way. We have 250 different carbon library with us.
Okay.
Those are the number of varieties that we have made. And the PNCs of those varieties are such that we're able to put this across different technologies. So lead acid, I told you, we have already commercialized. Lithium ion, the work is ongoing with the industry partner. Then we already have POC for sodium ion, redox flow and supercapacitor.
Okay.
And then we want to talk about fuel cell and zinc gel battery. The work is in progress. So carbon as a material goes in almost all the battery technologies in the world. And that is where we enter in.
So when you say 250 siblings of carbon that
Yeah.
you use, what exactly? So you test each of these at different temperature, different pressures, and then find out which works best.
Yeah. So what we did was there is something called what is the feedstock, right? The feedstock that we have done. Then the combination of different precursors that we use in the process, and temperature, pressure being some of them as well. Okay. So a combination of these and then created 250 carbon varieties.
Okay. Before I move to Vaishali, one last question to you, because I really want to understand from, if I was a cell manufacturer and I come to Cancrie, what is it in for me? I understand the performance parameters that will increase, the efficiency will increase, but then I come only to you, or there are more competitors which I can go to, but what is that you bring to me? Is that the cost advantage again, or we are also banking on, or definitely banking on the efficiency, that it is too much that nobody is able to achieve? Yeah. And hence you are the best right now.
So as I mentioned, performance is one of the key things that we sell. We are improving the performance. We have already proven across different technologies as well as different materials. Number two, when we talk about cost, I won't say it's the cheapest, or it's the most expensive. But we have positioned it in such a way that even an MSME can take it up. And in fact, when we talk about the customers that we have, majority of them are MSMEs. So we are improving the accessibility of premium quality carbon. Having said that, it's not the cheapest, but still the way it works is that even an MSME can adopt it. And number three, that usually people don't care about is sustainability. The the material that is out there are either mined or use fossil fuel as a precursor.
Yeah.
But we are using firstly agricultural residue, and then the second thing is the process itself is highly energy efficient. We are using 60% lesser energy, and then the GHG emission is 13 times lesser.
Okay.
So, but people don't really care about the third one as of now.
No, I'm sure the world is moving towards
Yes,
it
so
at a slower level
Yep.
or at some pace, but they are moving.
yeah,
I think
so
that
sure.
understanding has come about.
Yeah. Okay, nice. A good story about Cancrie and what you're doing. To you, Vaishali, because we have heard you saying that communication is a good tool for, or a very important tool for a systemic change.
Yeah.
So give us an example from your experience where you could see that this has actually brought down a change in how the policymaker or an organization think in a way.
Right. I'll give you an example from our work in Vietnam, where we work very closely with the government to enable energy transition and specific to the grid journey, so grid optimization and efficiency. So we had done a opinion piece in one of the main publications in Vietnam called VN Express.
This is which year?
This was which year are we in? We're in 2026. So this was 2023.
Okay. 3 years back, right.
And the core argument of the opinion piece / interview was that while energy transition is accelerating in Vietnam, the policy framework supporting storage was not, wasn't enabled enough for the country to reach that scale and reach that speed. The opinion piece was well received by a lot of sectoral partners. There was a lot of commentary that backed up the piece that we had put out, the narrative that we had put out. And soon after, Deputy Prime Minister of Vietnam, Mr. Ha, noticed, it came to his notice, the opinion piece, and then he made a directive to the relevant ministry to start looking at storage and creating an enabling framework, policy framework. That was also when Vietnam was looking at revising its national policy, which they call the PDP 8 national policy on energy transition. So I think it was also a question of timing. I'm not saying that one article leads to a complete overhaul of the policy, but it is about continuous and sustained engagement with stakeholders that is needed. And it's also about the timing. And this makes me believe that strategic communications is not always about visibility or amplification or an afterthought when a milestone has been achieved, you kind of go ahead and amplify. It has to lead to action and it has to work towards the business goal. So you have to input in right from the beginning till the end of any given project life cycle or value chain.
Yep.
Communication is an important precursor to that, right? And that is an example that, kind of brought this to life, brought this strategic communication and the importance of strategic communication to a business goal, brought it to life.
Wonderful. But this could be an example at a very, 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 very high level, I would say, in terms of a Vietnamese government doing this. Have you seen any such changes happening across domestically or in India or at a lower level also?
We see this day in and day out. So it has to be a drip feed, right? Communications is not, as I said, it's not a one-stop blowout when a milestone is achieved. You have to have continuous drip in the media. You have to have media kind of understand the narrative that you're trying to bring in. You have to have partners who are championing what you are talking about. It's not always you talking about what is important, but you have to create that cadre of champions, whether it is through your partners, media, the community. They have to come up and own that narrative. And you do that, as I said, through sustained communication. For example, in UP, we have a project called the Devi Project, which basically works towards the empowerment of women entrepreneurs by replacing traditional fuels to decentralized solutions, renewable solutions.
So when you say the fuel used in the homes and all that.
Yes, so de-dieselization is one. And we work very closely with the government to do this. So when we went into UP, of course, you can individually look at, these small SMEs, these installations. It could be as small as your atta chakkis, for example, your oil explorers, right? So standalone installations, as well as borrowing the government scheme. And we realized that for this to really take off and for the women to be empowered enough, you have to have a government buy-in. So we went to the state level rural mission, which is the scheme. You have a national rural livelihood mission, and then you have that percolating down to the states. And when the states started seeing the uptake and the increase in the income, the efficiency, and also socially, these women were so proud to be able to own enterprises, and stories about they're doing night shifts and having the husband come to them and give them their food. So there was the status, recognition within the community. And you know that in Indian villages, it's not your individual life, but you also lead a community life as well. So that these stories were so heartwarming to see. And this was just simply because we were amplifying these stories day in and day out through publications, through, our using digital media, where community members were coming and speaking about the impact that they had. And this caught the eye of the government. Again, reiterating that it's not just one story or one video that makes, that leads to an overhaul, but it certainly does trigger interest and does trigger that awareness. And now we're working with, UP and also moving towards Bihar and Orissa.
Wow. So I'm very sure that this is not just one big milestone, achanak se aa gaya hai.
Yeah, it's sustained
It's
engagement.
definitely different people working together step by step.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting, Vaishali, what the work that Global Energy Alliance for People and Planet have been doing, both in globally and actually work in India. So now we actually want to delve deep into the ENTICE challenge. We've been hearing ENTICE 1.0, which launched in 2023, and possibly the third edition is coming this year.
Yeah, it's ongoing.
So it's ongoing. Okay. So tell us more about the whole challenge. Why did you come up, and what impact it has actually created?
Right. It's very hard talking about your own project and kind of, communicating it. So I'm going to kind of, turn towards Mahi to also talk a little bit about ENTICE. But I'll just give you the general idea about what this initiative is all about. I don't call ENTICE the challenge. It's a little bit beyond that. So when we came up with the idea of ENTICE, when we did our landscaping, we realized that there are numerous prototypes, which are brilliant prototypes, but have not been able to cross over what we call in common parlance valley of death, which is basically where you have great prototypes, but they don't have the wherewithal to commercialize or be ready to scale in a real world market scenario. And that is where Global Energy Alliance came in with ENTICE to help innovators cross that valley of death through providing technical support, providing financing, providing mentorship, visibility, everything, all the ingredients that take an innovation to kind of reach that and follow that pathway of scale. So while you had a lot of pilots and at seed level, etc., already in the ecosystem, but that flip or that push for them to really deploy in the real world was not there. And that is where ENTICE was born. So when we started with ENTICE the first edition and the earlier editions of ENTICE, we cast the net really wide. We looked at the DRE solutions, we looked at BESS storage, we looked at AI. And it was also a learning experience for us. We realized that, moving along the lines, you also need to kind of hone down to those kind of challenges that really move the needle and challenges which are really needed to be solved at that point in time. And this was again through a lot of consultations that happened with innovators like Cancrie and utilities who are the recipients of these kind of solutions, the investors, the government. So currently the solution ENTICE 3.0 edition that we're looking at looks at two challenges which we feel are very critical to unlock anything that can move the needle for grid, because that is where most of the bottlenecks happen.
So
right?
the objectives are already defined for 1, 2 and similarly for 3.
For 3. And we're looking at non-lithium storage solutions, and we're looking at AI-enabled grid digitization. So we work with utilities like JVVNL, which is the Jaipur utility, Delhi utility BRPL, and through these utilities and the larger ecosystem, we co-create these challenges because we feel there is a market. And as I said, the main idea is to be able to deploy this in the real world.
Wow.
So to enable the innovators to deploy this in the real world. So this is where ENTICE 3.0 has landed at. We're currently evaluating the applications. It's a funnel system, so
So what happens when you like from somebody getting into that application process to evaluation, and what happens further?
So as I said, we co-create the challenges, we put it out. Once the applications start coming in, it's a funnel system of looking at evaluating these applications. We do the initial hygiene check is done in-house with Global Energy Alliance technical expertise at play. And then we have a set of evaluators who are again drawn from the industry, experts in their own right, who then kind of look at the shortlisted entries. Typically, on an average, we have about 14 to 15 shortlisted entries that come through. And then these entries are, solutions are made to go through a rigorous mentorship boot camp, simple but rigorous boot camp. And we arrive at a boot camp, which is a physical 3-day kind of exercise.
All these 15 organization people are brought together for 3 days.
Yes. And even before that, there are a series of mentorship opportunities that they are made to go through, and they're kind of fine-tuning their pitches. And the final 3-day comprises of an investor marketplace, which is actually a real marketplace where investors come in and hear the pitches for the first time. And they can also strike deals away from ENTICE. So that is another opportunity that we also give to the innovators. In fact, we had one of the winners of ENTICE 1.0 Ampere Hour did strike a deal during the marketplace with Avana.
Very nice.
And they also went on to implement one of our battery projects at Cancrie substation in Delhi.
In Delhi, yeah.
Right. And then the final jury meet where these shortlisted applicants or solutions are then presented to the jury. Again, the jury is an external jury drawn from the industry. And these jury members then arrive at the winners. These winners, and why I said that this isn't just a challenge, because we don't end there. So these winners now, and this is again from the lessons that we've learned through the journey of ENTICE, they then move on and their solutions are then deployed in the real world. In this case, it would be with the utilities.
Wow.
So this is the journey of ENTICE. But Mahi, please pitch in if you...
I would really want to understand. So for our audience, let's understand that Cancrie was one of the winners of ENTICE 1.0. And we are very happy to have Mahi here and talk about that journey.
Yep.
How it had actually helped Cancrie to be a bigger brand than what they were in these years actually.
So I think one of the things I wanted to start is the fact that, we were part of 1.0, but we are still in a very good collaboration with ENTICE. So we get opportunities like these and other opportunities where, we talk about the brand. So it's not just, it has not stopped since 1.0. It's a continuous process, as Vaishali mentioned. And so, yes, I think one of the things that stood out was the fact that we were already part of acceleration programs and all those things, but nothing was specific to energy domain.
Okay.
And even though that first edition was like a wider one, as Vaishali mentioned, but for us, it was actually very targeted towards energy. So we saw a lot of different players from our community or our ecosystem that really helped us. So the fact that the process was more rewarding than actually getting the reward was really good. Like, we got the award.
That was also good, but
the journey was also amazing. Firstly, the mentors were super relevant to us.
What sort of mentors did you meet?
So, for example, we met from people who are actually deploying the batteries out in the market, to people who are investing in such domains, and very targeted investments, or corporate players who are, part of this ecosystem. So we were getting feedbacks from them. And that was a time when we had actually started raising money, thought of starting to raise the money.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a great time when we were fine-tuning our storyline. We were working on the pitch deck. We were analyzing the market better so that we can do the projections better. So all these different financial, marketing, GTM, and the storyline, all these was something that we were able to get help from in that duration. And the boot camp that we had for 3 days was, I think, one of the most amazing experiences we had.
Nice.
And why it was
And
because
this is not just to make her happy, right?
no, definitely. I think this we talk about all the time internally as well. Me, Akshay, and Amitej, we three are the co-members. We had all three of us went there to get the exposure and the learnings. We made sure we are there attending the entire sessions. One thing was definitely the mentors. The other thing was there were different startups, and they were at different point in their journey. So, and we were a little earlier than a lot of them.
Oh, nice.
And when we talked about our problem, they would tell us that this is how it goes and this is how you can solve it. So they had actual experience on field that they had shared with us. And that was really motivating to see that, they've been, been there, done that. So that was a great experience for us and that really pushed us further. So that was number one thing. The boot camp, I think it was a very rewarding process. Then after that,
She's smiling actually.
That was really cool. I think that was one of its kind wherein, you bring all the companies together and they spend time. We would spend like the full day together. We are friends with these startups and all that.
Very nice.
And it's a great conversation and, help that we can reach out to them and then seek solutions for the problems. The second thing was definitely because we had access to the ecosystem. Now we had players we can go to and get our problem solved. And then the third thing is funding. So, while we didn't directly get the funding out of this, the conversation that we had, what we essentially got was a great presence in the market because now we had, ENTICE support.
So that gives you the visibility that
Yes. So, like one of the things was we got on NDTV where we got a
that
good
gives you a
feature.
national platform
Yes.
actually.
So that gives us credibility because if you're just going to go to battery manufacturers, say try our product, they'll be like, who are you?
Sure.
We don't
Of
even
course.
know you,
Yeah.
and it's a supply chain worth crores.
Yes.
Why will we put your product?
Yeah.
But now after winning that, getting that credibility out in the market was easier for us. And same goes with investors, wherein Global for Energy Alliance is a very prestigious brand or an organization that when we talked about it that this is where we got this award, people already knew, okay, so you were vetted properly. And
That gives you that validation.
Yes.
Yeah, true.
So that was, I think that was one of the most remarkable output that we got through it. And still, whenever there's an association like these, and we mention that, it's with them, that automatically gives us a good validation, as you mentioned.
Wow. So in the meantime, when Vaishali is removing the tears from her eyes.
Yeah, music to my ears.
So I would want to understand because it's a good story that she has told, right? And she was part of 1.0. We moved to 3.0. What has improved? What has changed from 1.0? I understood that there's a wide network that you started with, possibly you've limited it. But anything else that have changed? And some challenges that you saw from during this journey, which you think have already improved?
Right. I wouldn't say changed. I think we've matured from kind of honing into the challenge statements, as I said, making it really specific. Given that this is a very crowded space, there's no dearth of challenges in the country, right? But we had to find our niche there, and where we found it was one, the quality of the challenges and the problems that you're trying to solve and put out there, and being true and staying true to those.
Yes.
So that was one. The second was, as I said, being able to deploy. In the first edition, we did not have the opportunity to use these solutions to be able to deploy them in the real world. We've been able to do that in the subsequent editions.
True.
So I think that became a real strength and a value addition to ENTICE. And the third thing, which, when we think of innovation, of course, the first thing that comes to mind is capital, right? Which we are now also starting to crowd in and deploy capital from our end, but also trying to crowd in from the larger ecosystem through, whether it is through our investors or, through our own convertible note that we will be deploying with this crop of innovators. It is also about, as Mahi said, about the journey and the kind of people that you interact with, whether it's at your peer level, whether it's through mentors, and the visibility that you get out of it. I think these softer aspects are not spoken about much. But these also kind of shape that journey of an innovator. And at the end of the day, it's as I said, it's about pitching to the investor in front of you, right? And that transaction that happens and that relationship that you build with your investor and with the customers. And that comes through when you have only gone through this prolonged journey of meeting different people, understanding what the ecosystem looks like. I think that is what Entice, to a large extent, has been able to deliver. What we want to really now do is not see these as piecemeal challenges, but moving forward, really develop a cohesive program that, of course, brings all these elements together. Whether it is capital, whether it is deployment, understanding of the investor ecosystem, and strengthen that and be able to create markets. So, looking at can an innovation from India, for example, travel to Africa, where we also work, and we're actually speaking to utilities in Africa. We're already seeing a market for the solutions that we've just put out in the form of our Entice 3.0 challenge statements. So I think this is how Entice has also grown along with these innovators through the 3 editions.
Nice. So one of the initiatives that I also lead is on Battery 360, where we are specifically working on in the battery ecosystem startups only.
Right.
We're also going on ground, discovering them from various regions, and bringing them or giving them a national stage at the summit also that happened. Right. Possibly in the future, if something comes up and we work together also.
Of course. I mean, we're the alliance, right? I mean, that's in our name. So we always look for alliancing and for partners. So happy to collaborate.
And Vaishali, because we have seen this journey, and do you think one thing that you would want to modify, just one thing in this Entice challenge, or possibly Entice 4.0?
Not see this, as I said, not see this as just challenge statements and challenges one after the other, but to actually really develop a
to make it a little better.
Cohesive program where, there are all these ingredients are elevated ingredients. So whether it's peer-to-peer engagement, whether it's innovators to investors, strengthening those relationships. I think that is the way we want to progress. And of course, being able to have a larger, when I say larger, I don't mean a share in the innovations, but to be able to back the innovations for a long term. So hence we've moved from just giving out grants to now looking at a convertible instrument, a recoverable instrument, so that we're there for the long haul. So that is also something that we are trying to work towards and be able to crowd in more investors and get. So we do the first loss or the first risk, but the idea is to also get that confidence going of the investors at large, so that they can deploy their capital.
So that's nice, because Mahi also talked about this, and because they were the winner of 1.0, but he has still connected.
Yeah.
But from the different angle, Mahi, because you've been on the other side of the table, what is one thing that probably you would wish can happen in the next years to come for Entice?
I think, as she already mentioned, I completely agree with her that not just challenge statements and all, but like an ecosystem. So the 1.0, 2.0 people can come back to that ecosystem and connect with the solutions, because we are also looking for solutions for our own place. For example, one of the things that we're looking at is how do we deploy solar in our manufacturing process. But that solar has to make sense for what we are building on. Yes. So can we go back to the ecosystem of Entice, and then we can plug in with their solution. Similarly, can we also propose our solution to the existing ecosystem startups that are part of it? So I think that plugging in would be really cool.
So what you thought is already Vaishali has taken
she's already
care,
I completely align with that.
Okay, and for a deep tech startup like yours, what is the biggest barrier? So once you said, because you mentioned that today if you go to a battery, some OEM, they would say, who are you, for example, and something like this entire channel actually gives you that validation. But let's suppose if you will have to bucket it down or filter it out in terms of what is the 2 core challenges which a deep tech organization like yours face, and specifically in the Indian context, what it would be?
So I think one challenge which I am seeing it is kind of changing, improving, is the patient capital. For example, the expectation from a startup is, you invest now and in 3 years you get like skyrocket returns. But for a deep tech company, it takes time
Yeah.
because first of all, the sales cycle itself is like one year, 2 years and plus. So that
So
time,
that your product will be in the market in 1
Yeah,
year.
yeah.
So you'll have to wait for that.
So you have to firstly wait for that. Then once the product is there, the scale it takes
then
some
it's
time
again
to scale
some
it
cycle
up.
to scale it.
Yeah. So I think that is something that is important, and it requires a lot of capex because deep techs have, they have to buy machines or they have to have that supply chain intact. So I think that patient capital is something now. I think from last year, especially, I know that SIDBI had, has started some funds specifically for deep tech. So investors have now become more comfortable about the fact that there's patient capital that needs to be deployed in this. So, it may take like another 1 or 2 years to actually normalize that patient capital in the ecosystem. But yeah, it's a welcoming change that people have already started talking about it. So that's number one. The second challenge is for us because we have made this patented process. Now the kind of machines that we require is something that was not here in India, that was not here in the US, in Europe. We had actually talked about the machines customization. So it took us some time to really work on those machines because that kind of availability was not there.
No.
So what we did was we thought that anyways we have to customize. The best way is, why don't we empower the Indian ecosystem for that? So all the machines that we have and all the raw material and everything that we have is locally sourced. It's in India.
Wow.
But it took us some time to establish that supply chain. And it took us some time, a lot of time, to actually establish the machines as well. Ensuring that the material of construction is right. We did a lot of R&D on that. But now that everything is settled, I think that challenge is also something that, we have kind of overcome. But imagine that these are new machines. So if a breakdown happens, so we have to do troubleshooting on our own as well. So yeah, so that is another challenge wherein there are great technologies out there, but is the supply chain ready for that technology to be deployed?
True. That's something that we have seen across the battery
Yep.
ecosystem, and they've been facing this equipment
Yes.
issue just in case it breaks down, because somebody will have to fly from the other country
Yeah.
and get it done in case we don't have that knowledge. So that was nice, Mahi. So good about ENTICE challenge itself. We've heard it from you and the winners itself. So now we move to our next segment. It's called PodPlay. We keep it a little informal and we see the other side of our guests, right? So this time we have kept a new sort of a round. We're calling it 60-second sell, right? She's a founder and you are from the other side. So I'm actually giving you a very absurd idea, nothing energy related, not technical. We are getting into this, right? You will have 60 seconds to sell this. And finally, the other side will have to say sold or not sold. That also will give, right? And this we have kept it as an what's the vision hamper round also. The winner, I will decide then. And we'll give her that hamper to her. So Mahi, first one to you. Sell Vaishali that she will never have to use an elevator again.
Okay.
So Mahi, your 60-second elevator pitch.
Wow.
Yeah, nice. That's
Nice.
okay. I'm sold. So we know how India is growing towards obesity. India is actually, I think, top 3 countries in the world with obesity problem. And one of the things is that there's no elevated exercises that people are doing. So I think that it is not a good idea to use elevators. So I highly recommend taking stairs. That really gives that boost and the exercise that require, because it's not just motion, it's also an elevated motion that you can do in the stairs. The second thing is, how that there's war ongoing, there's energy problem. So your elevator can actually shut down anytime. So you don't have to take that risk. So I would highly recommend take the stairs. And then definitely, how the air quality is really low. You can feel claustrophobic inside an elevator. So I don't think you should take elevator at all. Take these stairs. It's safe. It's healthy. It's safer, and then you won't have any problem in the future.
Sold.
Wow.
I mean, she's
No questions asked.
after all, she's a founder, right? So she knows how to make her pitches right.
Okay, that was nice, Mahi. So Vaishali, this time it's yours. sell Mahi on switching her phone off for one full day a week?
Right. Maya, I highly recommend you switching off your phone. The first reason is that as a founder, you need the space and a white canvas to kind of, dwell on your problems and not be cluttered by the noise that is in and around you with everything that you see on your LinkedIn and on your Insta. So that white canvas that makes you think and be focused. So that's the first reason. The second, again, health related. And third, again, family time is important. You're going to embark on a new journey. So it'll be great for you to kind of, have that me time and also time with your loved ones to, as a communicator, I always talk about communication and strategy, but to be able to connect with your family and plan for your future. So those would be my 3 points to you. I think that's enough, right?
Yeah,
Everybody looks like so prepared for this. Wow, what's happening? No.
So that's my 60
Okay, that's nice. And please, so from next one can counter also.
Okay.
Right?
But
So you just can't keep
great
listening.
points
In case there are. Yeah. So, but Vaishali, well done. This was nice. And Mahi, over to you. Sell your co-guest on never using Google Maps again and only asking strangers for directions.
So I have a very good use case. So what happened, there was this family who was following Google Maps, and then they were taken to an unconstructed, not fully constructed overbridge. And, it was an unfortunate thing. So definitely that is number one. Number two is what we have seen recently. There was a study where over dependence on these kind of things is leading to dementia. So we have to really go out there and, just memorize the lane by ourselves. That will have a great impact for our future as well. And the third point is there are a lot of anxiety and mental issues that is happening because of loneliness and people not able to communicate. So it's a great idea to just go out there and ask strangers, make friends eventually. So yeah, Google Maps is I think it's overrated. We should go back to just remembering and asking.
Right. I mean, I really try hard to counter, but I can't counter this.
Wow.
That's because even I've had experiences. I remember my daughter, we were again following the map, and we do a lot of these road journeys, right? And we, of course, reached a real point where we were stuck. And I remember my daughter, I think she was about 5 years old at that point in time. And she was like, Mama, why are you speaking to Google Auntie so much? Can't you not just ask the person, there's somebody from there would know the roads better than Google Auntie. So point taken, Mahi.
Wow. So Vaishali, over to you. Sell Mahi on wearing the exact same outfit to every single meeting for a month.
Now, this is going to be a hard one. I mean, we are women after all, right?
Of course, that's why you created it. Yeah?
And being able to push for that. But of course, sustainability, and we're in the game of sustainability, and Cancrie, more than any one of us, and of course, Global Energy Alliance also believes in that philosophy. So being able to, show up smart and have that confidence, but also protect the earth that gives you that confidence and gives you the stage to be able to turn up every day. I don't think I need to push this case further. It makes a lot of sense for us to be wise about our fashion and conscious about our fashion choices. So and also less electricity being used in the washing machine. I mean, I can go on and go down the electricity path, but I won't do that. So that's my point.
No, I actually agree, because this is the exact same thing, right from the sandals, the jeans, and the shirt that I wore in the last meeting that I had in Bangalore. So
wow,
I mean,
she's already following
comfort.
it.
Yeah,
Okay,
nothing beats comfort.
I'm already on board.
Okay, that's making the other side winner for it. So Mahi, over to you again. Sell your co-guest on giving up air conditioning for one summer.
Oh my God, that is difficult.
This is difficult.
That is
we are
very
sitting
difficult.
in Delhi, so
Yeah, and basically, a lot of we are sitting here in the room and it's so cold. But let's just go out there and behind the scene wherein the hot air is coming out, and it's excruciating. It's really, really bad. I have waited for a lift wherein there were a lot of these, the external air, the heating, the hot air was coming out, and it was really unbearable. So, and there are a lot of people, who are on the footpath or who are just working outside. So imagine this scenario where they are really, really working hard, and they are doing physical labor, and then yet they have to extend. They have to also be open to these extra hotness. So I think using AC is not really a good idea, because we are being selfish by using AC. We are not really we are not thinking about others who are out there burning themselves, and it's just a matter of our psychology. Our body is already prepared to take up that temperature. It's just that we are not pushing ourselves. And very importantly, sweating is very important for getting the toxins out of the system. And what AC is doing, it's doing the opposite of it. It's making our skin more dry, and which is not good for our body. So we have to make sure that, I won't say completely eliminate, that may not be easy, but starting slow and then eventually, getting off it isn't.
Right.
I got the storytelling that she's doing.
It's not a counter, but I think I just want to add on, and it's very important that the infrastructure has to be supportive, right? It's easy for us to sit in an AC room and say, and I completely agree with what Mahi has said. But as I said,
you're leaving the AC for a month then?
I mean, I actually have tried
You're
doing that, but not by being in the city, by moving away from the city and going back to the
Yes.
village from where I come. And I'm also lucky to come from a place called Nagaland,
Oh,
one
wow.
side of my family where you don't need air conditioning. And so I'm privileged. So I think it's about understanding that privilege, accepting it, and also getting the infrastructure right. As I said, it's easy for us to sit in an AC room and say, ki, acha, hame aisa karna chahiye, waisa karna chahiye. But then also we need to work towards that reality, right?
Yep.
True. I think that this time, the London Climate Week, a lot of people
I
were
mean,
actually saying that.
Totally.
They could feel the change that was
Yeah.
happening. Okay, wonderful. We'll go with last two. So Vaishali, this one to Mahi, sell her on changing her phone ringtone to a motivational speech for a week.
I think as a founder, that shouldn't be something which is hard for you to do, right? And I think it's also doable, and something that you should look at doing, is because whatever knowledge that you've been able to gather through your journey, imagine being able to broadcast that to others. I think people will be happy to receive that kind of knowledge. Noise, I mean, devices all around us is anyway so annoying, right? But to be able to replace that with, as I said, with all the noise that one sees, especially in the city life, to be able to really have strong messaging to your peers, I think that would be something which would be really welcome by your peers. And also, I'm sure that will lead to more relationships, more interactions. Maybe something that you've said will catch the fancy of the next investor, and you will have another ENTICE-like challenge coming and
Yes.
selecting you as the winner. So you're already preparing your ground for that.
Yeah,
So.
I agree.
Wow, this is going strong. So one last question to both of you and see who's the winner. This will decide it. Ask each other and you have to force other to get one app deleted from their phone. If you can do that. Convince each other.
Assuming you have Instagram
I actually don't.
Wow.
already has deleted.
So that's the dichotomy. I'm a communicator, other than of course my role as a project manager in innovation. I'm not on social media, so I don't have
Wow.
Twitter.
So try for some other app then.
X and
It's difficult for
Instagram.
you. I think she
Okay.
can convince you then.
Yeah.
This
yeah.
is
I would actually convince you, if you have a grocery app, to delete a grocery app on your
Yeah.
phone. And I'll say the reason again. I mean, we've talked a lot
she's
about
already
this.
said yes for some
Yeah.
reason.
Because
the
I
reason-
already can feel what.
I mean, yeah, it's very convenient. You're sitting at home. It also generates jobs, agreed. But then you're also kind of discontinuing with
Yep.
being able to go out and be able to pick up things on your own. That joy and of touching tangible things. Everything has become so digitized, from newspaper to every damn thing. I miss that feel and touch of being able to go and select. But also, the made in India, the make in India kind of story narrative, and I don't want to elaborate. Everyone knows that. Being able
Yeah.
to support that, right? Being able to go and really pick on your small kirana shops and being
Yep.
able to make them sustainable. I think that's another thing. And also, great spot to meet people,
Yep.
talk about choices and what your neighborhood, what your larger community is looking at. So it shouldn't be tough to do that.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Vaishali had a great points, and although Mahi had a good competition to her, but we have the winner for the What's the Vision hamper. Please bring that hamper to us. And this is
Thank
wonderful
you.
to have.
Thank you so much. But our philosophy
Vaishali.
is always partner first.
Oh wow.
So this is to Mahi.
Okay, from one to the other one. Okay, perfect, great. So very interesting, great conversation, both of you. You were great sport, I would say. Great answer that you gave. Tried convincing each other, but yeah, Vaishali was the winner for it.
Yes.
Now we're moving into the core of What's the Vision, where we talk about we make our user time travel to 2047. We're talking about 20 years down the line, how an India you want to see, or you have a vision for it. So to start with Mahi, what's your vision for India 2047?
So my vision is that India should be 100% self-reliant in energy, and I have a reason for that. So recently, we know about the war, how it had impacted the prices.
Yeah.
So even though everything we were sourcing was here in India, but the prices increased, and for anybody who's not even affected was coming to us and saying that, "Arey war aa gayi hai, to prices badhenge," and now they're not going back to the original ones. So while even if the supply chain here is in India, but if the energy is not in India, then that really impacts the ecosystem. So I think that's why India must, foster towards 100% self-reliance in energy, because energy is going to be a crucial currency, as it has already started becoming.
And where do you see Cancrie fit in that role?
So energy, one of the important components is going to be batteries.
Yes.
And definitely Cancrie will be in all the batteries in the world. So
Wow, very nice.
In India, definitely. Yeah.
No, we would hope that in 20 years, possibly you are there in the global batteries also.
Absolutely,
Why
yeah.
not? Okay, over to you, Vaishali. What's your vision for India 2047?
I see the headline reading as "Made in India is the new standard, an accepted standard for affordable and reliable clean energy." That's the vision, and that's the headline that I want to read 20 years, 30 years down the line. And hopefully agencies like the Global Energy Alliance, who are not here to replace markets, we're not here to replace local growth stories or local funding, but are only here to support and accelerate the ecosystem. And hopefully down the line, we would have enough entrepreneurs like Mahi and companies like Cancrie own this growth story, and with our support, and moving down the line, not with our support. So I think that's the story that I would want to see.
Wow. And where do you think, if we'll have to actually reach out to that vision, and if you have to break this story into 3 phases, what are the interventions that you think are required to help that? And it could be any intervention from the government, policy side, or anything else, right? 2030, 2040, and 2047.
I think the storyline is already being scripted as I see it now. You see the market coming together. You see, even in a hard to abate sector like ours, you already see investor confidence growing. There are policies which are enabling, right? There is a huge impetus by the government to kind of start creating solutions locally through innovation. The government is quite supportive of innovation. As you said, batteries, giving subsidies out. We recently read that news. So I think the ingredients and the machinery is already in place. It's just about everyone coming in and doing that in tandem. So from a story perspective, the actors, the players, and the script is ready. It just needs to be played out. And that is what, in these 3 phases, 10 years down the line or 20, 40, I think each one owning that role and being able to play to it, but not in isolation, in concurrence with the other ecosystem players. A lot of us still play our roles in silos. And that is what we want to break. And that is also where the alliance comes into play, is that, we want to crowd in the partners together and be able to create an ecosystem where each one is aware of what the left hand knows what the right hand is doing. So I think that is where we need to come together. So strong, transformative collaborations.
Perfect. And Mahi, to you, so where do you see will we see the Cancrie batteries in a home, EVs, as you mentioned, but any unimaginable thing that you feel or wish that the Cancrie's batteries will be there in like
Um,
100 years of independence of India, 2047?
so one of the things is, I think when we talk about batteries per se, we are automatically thinking about urban landscape wherein the EVs are moving, the two-wheelers are moving, the solar panel that is being used in our houses.
Yes.
But let's go to rural area as well, wherein the only one thing that is there is the off-grid, off-grid installations. So what we are seeing, what I am seeing in the next a couple of years for India when it's 2047 is the fact that the rural ecosystem is where they have uh, they have their agricultural residue that has been transformed into a battery that they're powering to work on their field that is completely electric.
Wow.
And the EVs there, two-wheelers or four-wheelers, it's already there in the rural area as well. So it's not just limited to urban population, but rural area. It's so common that now it's in the rural area as well. People have the accessibility to that. So that is my vision, where it's electrification everywhere, not just limited to certain regions, certain cities in India.
No, and any intervention as you see needs to happen like in 2030, 40 and 47?
Intervention by the government.
Anyone. So any intervention that you feel like it could be from the government or anything that possibly requires some other stakeholders,
So
but needs to happen to make that vision possible.
So I think intervention is important because I think one case study is of Delhi, wherein now they have reduced the number of years that you can use an IC engine powered cars. So if that has not been there, people would have still using their old cars, which actually emits a lot of pollution. I've seen that in Delhi. So my parents are from Delhi. I've seen that around me, that there are cars which are like 30 years old and so on, and even though they're working fine, but the pollution uh, that they emit is not good for the environment. So I think that policy intervention is important, wherein there is there is a way where you can get the EVs penetrated better. That's number one. Number two is how the prices are still high for EVs for a common person to buy it. The next intervention that government has already done is the fact that subsidizing this. Can we subsidize it further? And that can only happen when we have the ecosystem here, where the cell production is happening, wherein the integration is happening, the battery swapping is uh, is a common knowledge. So that kind of ecosystem, when it is developed, is when we are able to do
But for the vision that
Yes.
you created, for example, the rural electrification that you were
Yeah.
talking about, for that, any specific intervention that you feel like, or the
So-
source of the agriculture waste needs to be in a supply chain or something?
So I think we've already realized the great potential that agricultural waste has there, and it's not just limited to Cancrie, but we are also seeing it in other startups as well, where they're able to use it and make some good product. So so not calling it a waste, but calling it a resource
Yep.
is a shift that can happen, that will be able to deliver this vision of using the agricultural waste and then also powering your own daily life, is something that will be I think that will be very interesting, and that is very highly doable,
Okay.
that I
Wow.
see.
So one last thing to both of you. We are at India at 100. What's one headline that you would see, Vaishali, first you, that would make you happy that day that whatever you were trying to work on has really made it happen?
Yeah, I think I kind of preempted this question and already answered it. But as I said, made in India uh, across the board, and made in India, which is also accepted and is considered as the new global standard for affordable, reliable, clean energy.
Wow. Mahi, to you.
So I'll be biased towards Cancrie. The heading would be a company from Jaipur is giving 100x dividend to their stakeholders.
Wow.
That will be the heading for us.
I am buying those shares.
Yes.
Please, I need those
Yes.
100x dividends. Perfect. Great. It was great having you both, Vaishali and Mahi, on the show.
Thank you.
We had an amazing conversation. Hope you liked it.
Yes.
Absolutely loved it.
It was a great reunion to have. So thank you for facilitating that, Priyadarshi.
Thank you.